to share with you some information that may be helpful to you, may give you some hope, and may eventually kind of turn the tables for you in your ability to move forward, get unstuck, and keep pushing again as you try to make the switch to a tech career. Before I dive into this training on the laws of principle and expertise, laws and principles of expertise. There we go. Before I dive in and start typing away a little bit here, I want to tell you who I am. I've been looking to help a lot of people get into tech careers since 2020, the pandemic hit, and I do that through strategic advising, and I do that mainly through small groups that I've worked with over the years and help them get into their tech careers, or sometimes people come to me and I help them level up. So let's take a sip of tea and then get going. Cheers. Top of the morning. Here we go. All right. So I hear a lot about how the tech market is bad, and maybe you've heard that too. How bad is it though? Is there any hope for me? And I'm here to say that there is some hope for you, even if you have very few skills right now. You can map out your career and get going. And I just want to give you a little encouragement in this training to say why there is hope, why there is still uh, the ability to get into a tech career, even though everyone says it's bad and all of these highly paid tech experts are being laid off or fired as companies change hands and as AI is creeping in and changing the market altogether. Why is there still room for you as a new person? So let me just go through a couple very helpful principles or laws that have helped me. So why is there hope? Let's talk about Pareto's principle, or Pareto's law, I think it is actually. And what does that mean? Maybe you've heard of this, and it is the 80-20 rule. Maybe you've heard of that more often. And if you're more familiar with that, what it really means is that 80% of the effect is produced by 20% of the producers. That could be, 80% of your time at work is produced 80% of the profits at work. So we could say, let's just say that 80% of the profits at your job are produced by 20% of your time. Okay. So it's not these two items are unrelated. They're related, but they're not the same. Okay. If you this came about by I think he was a farmer. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I think he was a farmer or a scientist looking at farming. And Pareto, I think he was Italian. Everybody correct me. But basically, I read like one of the original books on this, and it's been a while. But basically, the example was in farming because a lot of these older laws, there was no high tech anything. There was not even the industrial age, but they seem to hold true. So maybe you've heard of this 80%. Let's just take another thing. Um, let's go to churches. 80% of the income of the tithing, we can just say giving at a church is produced by 20% of the members or givers. We can just say that. So you can think of your own room. 80% of the clutter on your desk is produced by 20% of, let's see if I've dug a hole for myself here, 20% of, let's see, 20% of the things you're interested in or involved in. So if I look around my desk, if I could show you my desk, it is bad. I mean, I have transformers, mini transformers, and a classic transformer. I've got erasers. I've got cables. Maybe you've got coffee cups like I do. Maybe you have, just crazy things on your desk. And you look around and you realize only 20% uh, of these things are interesting to me, or I don't even need them. So, okay, so what does Pareto's law mean? It means meaning, and we're going to get to another one called Price's law in a minute here. You can cut out 80% of most of your work and still get 80% of the production. Okay, now, so where does the 80% come from? You're only producing only 20% of your effort is giving you 80% of your production. So remember, we can't mistake these labels. Let's just put effort here instead of work. You can cut 80% of your effort. Why? Because only 20% of your effort is giving you 80% of your production. So if you cut 80% of your effort out, let's say you during your day, we can do some averages here. 20%, 1/5. In other words, we could say 1/5 of your day is giving you 4/5 of your profitable work. In other words, if you took off, let's say you work 10 hours. That's a long day, but 10 hours. Okay, it's a long day, but you're probably not working 10 hours solid. You could just take off 8 hours, work 2 hours only, and still get like basically 8 hours worth of work. We won't say that. We'll say 80% of your production. Isn't that interesting? And so anyway, that is Pareto's law. Now, I just want to say that because that's a personal efficiency, and Pareto is related to personal or business efficiency mainly. Or if you're a farmer, it's related to that too. We'll get to farming in a second as well, but I got to hurry up and get to the next one. All right, let's go to the next one, Price's law. Before you can Google it, I want to ask if you've ever heard of it. So, have you ever heard of it? Think about it. Price's law. To your tech career. All right. Cheers. Asante. Let's get to Price's law. This is where it gets interesting, a little bit of hope for you. All right. So, Price's law is a little different. And I spent too much time on the other one, so let's just go easy here on description and background. Price's law basically says 50% of the production of a domain is produced by the square root of the number of producers in that domain. I capitalized domain because we're talking about maybe a market. All right, and just to make it simple and help you understand kind of where it came from, here's the farming reference again. This is from what I've learned. I have not read many books on Price's Law, just Pareto's Law. So Price's Law came from tomatoes, I believe. If you've heard of the tomato timer, this is not it. That's different. Okay. But you should get a tomato timer. And if you don't know why, you can Google that or put it in the comments. I'll help. All right, tomatoes. Farmer saw that usually half of the good tomatoes came from square root of the number of plants he had, tomato plants. So let's just make it easy to do. 9 plants, 50% of good tomatoes came from how many? Square root. All right, 3 of them. It's very interesting. Increased it to 81 plants. Let's make it easy to, let's say 100. Nope. What's the square root? All right. Square root. Okay, square root, just so you know, square root. If you're not into math and you're looking to get into tech, probably don't choose programming. Even though there's not a ton involved, anybody switching to tech is probably not going to become a mechanical engineer right off the bat, or a structural engineer, or an architect. I don't know. Those aren't, architect isn't really high tech career. Mechanical engineer kind of is. I would say it is. But anyway, if you're having difficulties with math, I'm having difficulties with pronunciation. Then you're probably going to want to just go light on programming, maybe something more of a project management or QA, or look for something that, some programming like JavaScript, front end development, not going to be heavy on math. So this is okay. But anyway, square root is number which multiplied by itself equals the, what do we call it? Product. Okay. So let's just give an example. Man, I have not taught math for a while to my homeschool kids. My wife Jen and I homeschooled our 6 kids, and to cover describing square root. I don't know if I've ever had to do that, even though I do algebra, been through calculus, all that. All right, so 2, what's the square root of 4? Just, this is the only example I'll give. It's 2, because 2 times 2 equals 4. All right, so there we go. So he kept increasing, and let's say 81 plants. 50%, half of the good tomatoes came from how many? 9. All right, so you're looking around and you say, I don't understand. Why don't you just cut out more plants? Well, the difference between Pareto law means cut some things that aren't giving production. Price's law means no matter what you have, you're getting half good production from square root. All right, so do you get the difference? You can't just cut out half of those tomato plants, because then still half of the good tomatoes will come from square root of that number. So you're reducing the number of tomatoes. And this is the law. If you're still watching here, this is the law that gives us hope. Price's law. All right, so Price's law. Let's just go up here right now and change these. Let's copy this. Let's change these words up here. Okay, ready? And let's do it in red. So tomatoes, what could we change that to? Let's change that to front-end developers. And the farmer, so employers, see that usually half of the good what? Half of the good, let's just put websites. Websites, applications. Websites are apps. In the marketplace came from the square root of the number of what? Remember? The number of front-end developers. Okay. So 9 FEDs, 9 front-end developers, 50% of the good websites, apps came from 3 of them. All right, what is this telling us? That no matter how many developers there are, the top half of the production comes from the square root of the number of developers. So, okay, now this leaves you an opening. And here's the opening. This means there's an opening for people who are excellent at their high-tech craft, and those who are persistent and getting better, but still are not the top producers. So, this is what's happening in the market. Let me give you some more numbers here. I'm just going to paste them in from my cheat sheet over here that I have. So let's take an example. And we had COVID to figure out, but here we go. So if there were 9 people working a job in 2019, the same job, okay, at the same company, 9, let's just say iOS developers. I'm an iOS developer. And 3 of them produced half of the results. The other 6 produced the other half. So if a company wants to get rid of these 6, they can, but they realize probably eventually about 1 to 2, of those 3 that they cut will be still giving half of the results. And that's not because they're bad. It just means that the circumstances and the planning and the way that the company handles employees, it will affect. Maybe after the cuts, 2 of these people, 2 of these men and women, if they made a cut down to just 3, they're like, we're going to cut out half of our production and save a lot of money by cutting 6 developers. Maybe 2 of them then quit. So it's disastrous to just start cutting people. Okay, and I've been through this so many times with companies. All right, and I've also been part of expansions. This example is an expansion. In 2022, now there are 100 people. That sounds crazy, but on teams, there are 100 developers on huge companies. And a lot of, I'm going to coin a phrase, my friend Kenny, if you're listening, not coin a phrase, but a callback to a joke. These companies that hired 100 developers are flummoxed. They're flummoxed. And if you're nerdy like me and you have a dictionary at your desk, you can look that one up. But they're flummoxed. They're really, really upset that after they went from 9 to 100 people, developers, okay? And Are there 100 developers in some of these companies that are iOS developers only? Probably not 100. But they realize, and they're flummoxed because they have 10 of them now producing half of the results still. And as they look at them, they realize 10% of this is producing 50% of the results of those results. So maybe even a quarter of the production is coming from one of these people, which sounds crazy. That could be. So, and then the other 90%, the other 90 developers or team members are producing the other half. So this means your ability to stand out increases when you decide to do one of a few or multiple things. One, what can you do? So, and let me just say before this, these 90 developers, these 6 developers, these 90 tech workers, these 6 tech workers, because on an agile team, you could have 100 people working on a few projects in a company, and this will still remain true. And in general, it does remain true. These 90 people are needed. If they expect, if the company needs, let's say if they need, let's go back to websites. Just straight up company that builds websites. I don't know. It's easy to count this, but let's say they need 50 websites per year. They need those 90 people who are expensive. That's a lot of employees. They need them to keep up the production, or they'll go down to 25 websites. So 90% of them, you might say, or sorry, the square root of them, you might say, are the complete experts at that position, but the other 90 are needed. So what this means for you, you can increase your production and stand out to employers. If you're trying to get into a tech job or trying to level up, increase your production and stand out. You could also increase expertise. You hone your skills, honing your skills. I need to look up honing. I use it, but I've never looked it up. Honing your skills to stand out. Here's another thing. They need to hire these 90 people, okay? So just pretend that there are 1,000 people hired this year to web developer positions. What's the square root of 1,000? I actually don't know. I just put myself on the spot. I know 10 times 10 is 100. Let's say 10,000 people. All right, let's go to 10,000. I know 100 times 100 is 10,000. Some of you are questioning whether I did calculus. I'm scared of making mistakes. 10,000 people hired. They know that so 10,000 minus 100 equals 9,900. People are needed that aren't necessarily the top people. Are not necessarily the top people. And we'll just say not the top people available. Okay, so companies need to fill in. There's always going to be the fill. And so you might not want to think of yourself as backfill, But if you can show that you are high work ethic in your application, show that you have business understanding, show that you have sensibility, experience in life with people, with communication. See, all these things are non quote unquote tech things. Like a developer, let's say you're going for a BA, business analyst. Show that you have coding experience if you have it. So you start showing what I would call show your other side in your resume and application. All right, does that make sense? Show that you can round out a company and bring value to other areas where actually you're not just helping in one side of their jobs, their backfill of employees. So they need to increase production because the market's going up. Well, they're going to hire a ton of people. They need to reduce production. They still need people, or else the company will go bankrupt because they still need to produce. So they still need that the the producers minus the square root. All right. So show your other side so they can see value. And this will stand out to developer hiring managers and to internal recruiters and even external recruiters. The number of job applicants, and then this is also a hope for you. The number of job applicants has increased at a high rate in tech. They're all competing for your job, and that's what you think. And this is the kicker. Okay? But because of Price's law, just because that's the way the world works. Price's law describes how the world works. Because of Price's law, the number of people who get hired is increasing at a lower rate. Okay? The number of people who get hired is increasing at a lower rate, but it's still increasing. So, you can stand out more distinctly than ever before if you can increase your skills. And here's why. And show your other side. Here's why. Because you will stand out compared to the masses, not the square root. Maybe those are the experts, but you will stand out to the masses. The total hired minus the square root. So out of these 90 people, you can be one of the top people because you start increasing your skills and increasing your other side and your demonstration, your presentation of yourself to everyone. All right, so number 1, do not stop looking for positions. This is what people do in a slow market. They quit. That leaves room for you. And I'm telling you through Price's law, there is room for you. We need the 90. Okay? We need the 6. We need you. You'll be mentored. You'll be helped. You'll be invited into a marketplace that that needs people to grow, that needs people that have life experience, that know how to talk with other people that are their junior maybe. And if you're in your 30s and 40s, 50s, this is I'm speaking right to you. I switched in my mid 30s. So I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have questions, you can see if I get autocorrect. There we go. info@techlead.com. Just email me. Easiest way to get a hold of me. And if you want to book a call, I think I've got a link somewhere. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. And thank you for metal detecting with me today.